Welcome to the garden. Today I'm going to talk about maximizing your sweet potato and squash harvest and making your own fish emulsion at home. Let's get to it. I wanted to let you guys see how you can maximize your sweet potato harvest. What I do is, okay, here's your sweet potato vine, and it's just running across the surface of the soil. And so what I do is I make a trench along the line of how the sweet potato vine is running. And then I lay the vine down in that trench. I hope you can see the depth of that. I get it down in the trench and I water it. I try to get the trench quite damp. And then I get the soil over the vine all the way down, covering it up, letting the leaves stick through. So every contact where the leaf comes out, a root will form. And so I find that gives you more rooting places, which gives you more sweet potatoes. And I leave the tip out so it can continue to grow. Now, this one here is quite long. And so I have one row here and one row here. And I'm going to just go in between those and get this one done as well. I had a potato in there that rotted. We are still suffering through the drought, so more and more I'm finding that things are not surviving. But sweet potatoes are fairly easy to grow in my climate. I'm in Zone 9, Southeast Texas, and today is September the 1st, and we are still very hot and very dry. But the weatherman has said that beginning Saturday or Sunday, going deep into next week, we have a 30 to 40% chance of rain every day. So hopefully some of that rain will come to my garden. Now I do run the risk of overcrowding them, but I would rather take the chance of maximizing the amount of sweet potatoes I get instead of having more vines that's just running along the ground, instead of actually giving them the opportunity to root. And so I just, every couple of weeks, I go through all of my sweet potato beds and I do this. And I have found that my harvest is bigger when I do this than when I don't. And this year I'm really hoping to maximize, because I'm really hoping to maximize, because I don't know how much I'm going to get due to all this drought. But that's how I do it, and as you can see, the bed is getting fuller and fuller, and the biggest majority of the vine, I just come through and bury it until the whole bed is covered, and gives me the greatest opportunity to get the most sweet potatoes I can get. Now here, this vine here that's right at the edge of the bed, I will probably cut it and put it in one of my other sweet potato beds, because you see, this is my border, and so I think that's as far out as it's gonna go, and have enough soil to actually make potatoes, because number one, because of the drought, and number two, because we have clay soil, and that's very difficult to get potatoes to grow through. I'll probably just cut this one off too, but you see here, I buried part of the Seminole pumpkin to protect it against the vine borer, and the result is this part here is how beautiful it's starting to look. So it did work, and I'm hoping when we get some cooler temperatures, I'll actually start seeing some flowering, because see, it's putting on new growth. And I do the same with my pumpkin vines, but mainly to protect them from the vine borer. The more places of contact you have with those, your plant stays alive, and you don't have to worry so much about losing your plants to the bugs. So that's how I extend my harvest of sweet potato and of pumpkin. Okay, so I decided to show you guys how I make my fish emulsion. I use scraps from fish and shrimp. In here I have some old shrimp tails and heads. I just dump that on into the bucket. And here's a few more. And if you don't have this, you can use canned salmon or tuna or any kind of fish byproduct that you can get your hands on for fairly cheap. I wait until I cook shrimp and fish. Here's a few catfish bones. And you see, I freeze them until I have enough collected to make a 5-gallon bucket's worth. And then in this jar I have a cup of blackstrap molasses. And I know that some people use sawdust because they say it cuts the odor. the truth is it just stinks. And so I don't worry about the smell. And then you just want to fill your bucket up. And I let mine sit at about 6 months, because if you let it, it's ready before then, but if you want the heads and everything to totally disintegrate, you need to really give the sugar and the molasses time to break everything down. And I come and I stir it every now and then, but for the most part I just let it sit, because it will break down on its own. And after I get this bucket filled, I'm going to show you what I have that's ready to use. And I decide that it's ready to use when the smell is not so offensive anymore. It's still going to have somewhat of a odor, but it's not so strong that it makes you sick to smell it. Okay, so I have a top, and I don't know if you can see that, but I drilled a few holes in it so it can breathe. And then to keep the mosquitoes and other little bugs from getting in it, I just take a piece of mosquito netting and I cover it, and I leave a little bubble room. I didn't, if you notice, I didn't fill it all the way up to the top. I leave a little bubble room because as it ferments, it will bubble up, and I don't want it to bubble over, because as I said, it does have quite a punch. The odor is quite stinky, and I get that top on there really good, and then I put a brick on top. And like I have said in previous videos, we do have possums and raccoons that come through the yard from time to time, but so far I haven't had any problem with them getting into this mixture. And so right here I have a bucket that is complete. It's been sitting for 6 months, and it's ready to be used. If I give it a little stir, you can see there's still a little debris in it. See right there, I think you can see a piece of crab shell. But for the most part, there's no offensive odor. There's very little bacteria showing, you know, like slime or anything on the surface. And so this bucket is complete. And then what I do is I mix it with water when I use it. But for now, I just wanted to show it to you, so I'm gonna get the cap back on it and put my brick back on it so that nothing to mess with it. But this one does not have any odor, and like I said, it only takes about 6 months for that to happen, based on how much you put in the bucket and how hot it is outside.